When people talk about Mass Effect, it is often praised as one of the best-written sci-fi game series of all time. I don't fully agree with that. I still love the universe, the characters, and many of the individual story moments. However, replaying the trilogy made me realize that the overall writing is not as consistent or as carefully constructed as I remembered. There are several recurring narrative problems that weaken the internal logic of the story, and they appear across all three games. One of the most obvious issues is the selective use of recording technology. Throughout the series, characters carry Omni-tools, which function as highly advanced personal devices with recording capabilities. In theory, this should make gathering evidence relatively easy. In practice, recording only exists when the plot needs it to exist. In Mass Effect 1, one of the central conflicts revolves around proving that a Spectre is working with the Reapers. The story conveniently provides a recording that serves as definitive proof the Spectre went rogue. After that moment, video and audio evidence almost completely disappear as a narrative tool, even in situations where recording would logically resolve major conflicts. For example, Shepard never attempts to record Sovereign openly admitting that he is a Reaper, even though this would be undeniable proof of their existence. Shepard also does not record the Prothean VI explaining the Reapers and the cycle of extinction. These are moments where the story presents critical information, yet the characters behave as if there is no practical way to preserve or present that information to anyone else. This inconsistency becomes even more noticeable in later games, where recording technology is shown to be extremely simple and, in some cases, automatic. We see this in Mass Effect 3, where Shepard can expose the Solarian Dalatras through recorded evidence that he didn't even need to manually activate the recording device to get. Not exposing the Reapers for what they are earlier in Mass Effect 1 isn't too bad, because by the end of the game it seems like most people acknowledge that the Reapers are real. But then in the second game, people suddenly act like they don't exist again, which just makes the story's selective amnesia about recording technology even worse. Especially since this kind of evidence would have been useful in Mass Effect 2 as well. This selective use of technology isn't an isolated issue either. The same kind of narrative convenience shows up with character abilities. Asari are established as being able to experience another person's memories and perceptions through mind melding. This creates a major logical issue in the first game, where one of the Citadel Council members is an Asari. A central conflict of the story is that the Council does not believe Shepard's claims about the Reapers. Given the established lore, there is no clear reason why Shepard could not attempt to mind meld with the Asari Councillor to directly demonstrate what he has seen. The fact that this possibility is never even acknowledged suggests that the story quietly ignores its own rules when they would resolve the conflict too easily. Shepard's death and resurrection at the beginning of the second game also introduce long-term consequences that the narrative never fully addresses. Bringing Shepard back from what is portrayed as total bodily destruction undermines the stakes of death in the setting. Once the story establishes that a person can be reconstructed and revived from that level of damage, death stops functioning as a truly meaningful or final outcome for major characters. The narrative attempts to limit this by emphasizing the extreme cost and experimental nature of the Lazarus Project, but that explanation does not fully resolve the problem. Once a process is proven to be possible, it logically becomes more efficient and more accessible over time, especially in a technologically advanced society. If resurrection is achievable, then the setting should account for that reality. Instead, the series treats Shepard's revival as a one-time exception, without fully grappling with its broader implications. The Arrival DLC introduces another structural issue through retroactive plot implications. Arrival establishes the existence of a mass relay referred to as the Alpha Relay, which is capable of connecting directly to any other relay in the network. This raises an obvious question. Why did Sovereign insist on activating the Citadel Relay in Mass Effect 1? From a strategic standpoint, it would have made far more sense for Sovereign to return to dark space, awaken the rest of the Reapers, and then have them invade the galaxy through the Arrival Relay. This would preserve the secrecy of the Reaper's existence and avoid the enormous risk of launching a premature assault on the Citadel with inferior forces. The story never provides a convincing explanation for why this option was not taken. Arrival also implies that mass relays are more flexible than previously established. If a relay can be configured to connect directly to every other relay, then why did the Reapers not have an alpha relay in dark space for their own use? Earlier in the series, relays are presented as largely fixed in function, typically operating in one direction and within specific connection limits. The DLC retroactively weakens the internal logic of the Reaper invasion plan by blurring these rules. When you step back and look at all of these examples together, a clear pattern starts to emerge. The rules of the universe remain consistent only until they become inconvenient for the story being told in that moment. Technology, abilities, and established law are introduced to serve specific narrative beats and then ignored when they would resolve later conflicts too easily. The series delivers powerful individual moments, but its reputation as a tightly constructed narrative masterpiece is overstated.